Hi, my name is Denise Merriweather, and we're back again doing another Black-owned schools tour. I started this initiative just out of curiosity because I went to a Black-owned school, and I realized that there are not a lot of Black-owned schools. And so, under Black Minds Matter, we launched the first ever online directory of Black-owned schools, and I'm so honored to be joined by Cameron Frazier because Cameron is right in my hometown, and he's opened the first Black-owned charter school in the city of Jacksonville, Florida. And so, Cameron, I'm just very excited to speak to you, to learn about you, your school, and to come visit in person one day, especially since you're right here in Jacksonville. This is awesome what you're doing. So please tell me a little bit about yourself, your education background, and why you decided to launch a school.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is such an amazing opportunity. I'm so excited to be here and speak today on behalf of Becoming Collegiate Academy. My name is Cameron Frazier, and I'm the founder and principal of Becoming Collegiate Academy, Jacksonville's newest elementary school. We are the HBCU of elementary schools. I started my educational career, back in 2012 as a Teach for America Corps member in Jacksonville, Florida. Prior to that, I entered education because I was working at State Farm. I hated my job. I was at a desk job every day, answering the phones. And I remember just starting to sub because I just wanted to make extra side cash. And through that experience of subbing in local schools, I just noticed the need. I noticed the need for Black males. I noticed the need for just Black teachers in general, and just being able to connect with students. I saw that I was pretty good at it, managing a classroom, and it was fun. It was interactive. Working with people was different than what I had been doing in my previous role. So an opportunity to join Teach for America came along, and to join Teach for America Jacksonville, I jumped at it. I started my teaching career teaching at Matthew Gilbert Middle School in the neighborhood where I grew up. Taught. Yeah, I'm from the east side of Jacksonville.
Same here.
All right, out east. So being able to teach in my community was such an amazing experience, and I loved it. And after teaching at Gilbert for 3 years, I decided to transition to Nashville, Tennessee. I continued my teaching career teaching third grade reading, and then I transitioned over to another large charter network where I served as a leader for a couple of years. And most recently, I was a founding assistant principal, helping a large charter network open up a school in Nashville, Tennessee. So I got that direct technical experience there. And then after that, I was blessed with the opportunity to found Becoming Collegiate Academy. I was a part of the Freedom Fellows Institute, which took 6 leaders, Black leaders from across the country, and we all opened up high impact schools in our respective communities. That was an amazing experience of being able to be trained alongside other leaders who looked like me, who understood what we were trying to do. We had a mission and we all set out to fulfill it. And now I am leading and founding Becoming Collegiate Academy. We open our doors in the fall, in August of this year.
Wow. So that's a lot of just a different direction. So when you first started out in your early career working at State Farm, did you think, oh, well, I'm going to be a founder of a school one day?
I think I probably said it. I probably said like, hey, I will start a school one day. But never imagined like I would be here, 31, founding a school and really leading this organization. Like I never thought that I would have received this vision so early. And to be able to execute on it so early. I always knew it would probably happen. I always thought it was a long shot. Like, hey, I mean, I don't know. I'm a Black kid from Jacksonville, Florida, from the east side. Like I graduated from Andrew Jackson High School. Never in a million years would I have ever dreamed and imagined being able to do what I am doing today. And that's how I know it's like I'm walking in my purpose.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I've talked to a lot of people, and I've never been able to connect with somebody because they're not from out east, and so, I know the struggles of the east side. Tell me a little bit, when people have heard, my story, but you tell me a little bit from your perspective, some of the challenges or some of the things that, how does the east side look?
Yeah. To me, I always look at East Side as a positive. Like a lot of people look at it as a negative because it is an environment where, it's poverty stricken, low income community. But to me, like that was the place where I received the most love. Like those were the best Christmases, the best holidays. Being able to go outside and play in the sandbox, like that was the best time that I've ever had in my life, and the best memories that I have from growing up was growing up on the East Side. There's so much love in that community, so much strength, grit, resilience, family. Like we all were together.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that, nowadays. So I miss the love that I received from the East Side of Jacksonville. And the East Side, it built me, it makes you grow up, like you grow up quick, you're built. And that experience, I'm grateful for it. It's never anything where it's like, oh, I want to stay in this. It's obviously something you want to, come out of. But in retrospect, thinking about it, it definitely was a whole lot of love, and still is a whole lot of love out east. Like I love going out east, love being out there.
I'm back home, and I tell people, I'm like, and that community aspect that you talked about, I'm like, and you probably heard, so I'm like the Merriweathers, somebody say the Merriweathers, you like, oh, you a Merriweather? Like, yep. Yes, I'm a Merriweather. So
your family name meant something. Your family name meant something. And it still does out east. Like if you go out there and say the Gordons or the Merriweathers, like those names mean something. And nowadays in our communities, like we don't have that, like, and that's what I want to be able to rebuild, right? Like we are representing our family's legacy, and look what the two of us are doing now. And that is what, we got to instill in our kids, is that, what you're doing is not just for you, it's to extend the legacy forward. So yeah.
That's so, man, and even with this back and forth, when you meet somebody from out east, you're like, what, you from out east? And you're like, yeah, I'm from out east. And you your grandmama, your auntie, great aunt, there's always some type of connection, community, and people are just bonded over just being from out east. And so I'm so happy to hear about what you're doing. And I really hope more people get on board with creating more high impact schools on the east side, specifically because it's such a rich environment. Like you think about the downtown area, and for those listening who don't know, we're talking about the east side of Jacksonville, and Cameron Frazier founded a school, the first Black-owned charter school in Jacksonville, and we're from the same community in Jacksonville, Florida. So it's kind of interesting. And the community, the urban core, which is called, sits right at, you would think that the area will be high income. You have Springfield, which is pretty historical, higher income peoples. Downtown Jacksonville, the port of Jacksonville, right on the other side, where you have boats coming back in, bringing products back in from the port. And this Jacksonville Stadium, where the Jacksonville Jaguars play. You just have so much going on. The Jacksonville Fairgrounds, which is constantly hosting, arena games, shows, and all this thing. And then you have this very, very high poverty community. And I think I read the other day that the East Side hadn't had any new businesses in over 50 years. Mm-hmm. So it's near and dear to my heart, and I know it is to you. So, talk about, so your school was founded August of last year. And so talk to me a little bit about you're fresh, so talk to me a little bit about the challenges, especially since you founded it during COVID.
Yeah. The challenges are real. It has definitely tested my faith and built my faith more than anything. I would say the biggest challenges that I've faced so far, I talk about the successes is one, being able to have the community engaged and behind Becoming Collegiate Academy. 100%. Like the Jacksonville community, they stand up and they show out with us. And we're only as strong as our village. And I'm so grateful for that village. we assembled a strong board. We've assembled a strong team. We've raised the funds that we needed to raise nationally to be able to found our school.
Awesome.
The challenges that we faced locally, especially during COVID, was, I wrote my charter, which is a 500-page document, a 500-plus page document that I presented to Duval County Public Schools and Duval County School Board to be approved. So writing that itself, especially during COVID, was definitely a challenge. COVID definitely was something that everything just stopped. So I was, every day out and about in the community, being able to relate and interact with people. And when COVID came, it was like I had to shift. We had to shift in terms of how we interacted with the community, how we were able to engage with the community, engage with business leaders. So that was a really big challenge for us, navigating through that. And then the last piece is just making sure that we found the right home for our school, making sure we, found the right space, and still being able to connect and reach families, and to let them know exactly what we are doing and bringing to Jacksonville, and to continue that building that excitement and momentum.
Yeah. So where are you guys located?
Well, we haven't released our exact location yet. That is intentional. Everybody wants to know. That's the $1 million question. But I will tell you, we'll be located in the north side of Jacksonville, and we chose that community for a couple different reasons. One, we know that there's a lack of high quality schools, because of school closures. Our community in North Jacks has, seen a lot of school closures, a lot of consolidations. And even with the new district plan, there's even more consolidations that'll be happening within the next couple of years. So we knew that the need was there. The furthest charter school was a couple miles away. So there was just not a lot of high quality options in our community. So we specifically chose to impact the Norwood Lake Forest communities, which is around the 32208, 32209 zip code. And we will be located in that community off of Norwood Avenue. So we're really excited about being able to be in the heart of the north side, and being able to be in a central location where we can expand and reach beyond just that community.
It's so crazy because I'm listening to you. I'm like, yes, like my head is bobbling because it's like those are high needs zones. Yes. And it's just so great. So what's your hope for, your students and your village? Because it seems like your school is not just set up to impact students' lives, but the larger community life. So what's your hope, and how do you envision tackling that? Because it is you're very positive. I'm very optimistic too. And as a native, we're in the same backyard. So how does that look, and how are you gonna help with this?
Yeah. So one, starting off with the need. So we know that more than 50% of students, half of the students enter into kindergarten not being prepared and being ready. And we know that's for all students in the state of Florida. But more specifically, we know that for Black kids, that number is even more lower. And based on recent statistics and released, 37% of Black kids in third grade were passed the Florida State assessment. That means that 37% compared to 62% of, let me make sure I got my numbers right, 66% of their white peers, and 74% of their Asian peers. So our students are performing way below where they should be. And
so wait, repeat that again for me. You said 37%
of Black kids are performing below, on the FSA reading. 37% of Black students earned enough points to say they passed. So that's compared to 66% of their white peers in Jacksonville and 74% of their Asian peers in Jacksonville. So those numbers are stark. An achievement gap truly exists in our city. And we have to do something different. We have to do something unique. We have to do something innovative. We have to get creative in order to reach our kids. And that's what we've been able to do at Becoming Collegiate Academy. So when our goals for our kids is threefold. One is 100% of my Becoming Bears to graduate HBCU ready to attend a historically Black college or university in the future. 100% of my Becoming Bears being able to acquire 21st century skills and habits so that they can be able to compete in our ever-changing market. And 100% of my Becoming Bears embodying the Becoming core values. And we believe that by doing this, our students will be on track to be able to live a life filled with choice. We know that when you graduate from college, you're able to have choice. You're able to, make decisions and live a life that's different than what they might be living at the current moment. And we want to be able to provide our kids with an opportunity where they're affirmed and they see themselves in a positive light and know that the sky is the limit. They can do whatever it is in this world that they want to do. And we want to give them a very solid foundation early on to be able to do that.
Yeah. That's so I think about my K through 12 experience, and from K to 5, I went to some of those high impact schools. And because you know exactly where, I'm talking about, I won't name drop on this one, but I have name dropped, before. But, I went to those high need schools on the east side, on the north side, and I ended up failing the third grade twice. I was that kid who was not reading by third grade and repeated it twice. And it wasn't until I went to a school like the one you're trying to provide for your students that really wrapped me around and focused on my needs as a student, that my outlook on education changed and my performance and my academics changed. Everything changed just because of the environment and the setting that I was in. And that's how I got thrust into this space of education reform and just trying to figure out, how is my experience different from my family members, from from other people that I know. And it just boiled down to the fact that I received a different education. And what if, like that question. And so that's drawn me into this space of activism and advocacy. And so when you talk about providing other options for students so they can have the hope and that spark of, hope to go to college, to achieve, to get jobs, it resonates so well because that's what I lived. And I'm very happy to, every time I do these episodes, I'm so happy to hear that it all comes back to providing those options. And there are people who want to, I don't, do pitter patter, but the public school system, all of those data points that you mentioned are not from the charter school sector, the private school sector, their mainstream sector. We have one public school system, and I'm be frank, they're not really doing a good enough job for me, of educating our babies. And so when I think about options, I'm very excited to hear about just what other things are inundated. But what advice?
Oh no, I was just saying, and like you, very similar experience of just having just realizing that my own educational experience did not prepare me for college. It did not prepare me for my future, and it did not provide me with what I needed as a Black boy. And for me, this school is so personal because it fixes that, and not even for me, it fixes what it didn't do for my parents, right? Like what it didn't do for others who came before me. And we know that it's on us to provide our kids with a positive experience, a positive education where they see themselves reflected.
Right.
It is so, being Black and being able to teach Black kids and lead Black kids, we have a profound additional impact with our students that helps them, see success, right? Like see themselves in a positive light. And our kids need more of that. So I commend you for using your voice, your platform as an opportunity to be able to shift the narrative for so many kids and to be able to highlight those who are shifting the narrative across our country.
Yeah. What advice would you give to people who are in this process or maybe just thought about it, kind of how you were in your early days and thinking about founding a school? What advice would you give them?
Yeah. Understand your why, know your why. I think that's like so important because it's that why that you're going to have to lean on when times get hard, because times are going to get hard, times are going to be tough. So being able to understand and know your why is like extremely important. Know what you're doing and what you're building and why you're doing it. Like for me, we're building a high quality school. Like our school is going to be amazing. It's going to be one of the best in the city. And I believe in that because I've been trained to be able to do this, right? Like I have, worked in high performing networks. I've, traveled and seen high performing schools. I built my vision. I built my eye. So I just didn't wake up overnight and just say, "Hey, I'm open up this school."
Yeah.
This is something that I have trained for. So I believe that Black kids is not just about providing them with a school where they have Black leaders standing in front of them, but they need high quality schools.
Thank
like
you.
They deserve high quality schools.
Yeah.
If we're not providing them with that, I'm not for it.
Thank you.
Like our kids need the best, and we're going to provide them with that. So I'll say know your why, understand your why, understand that vision that you've received, and make sure that you're building something of quality for our kids and our community.
That's right, and it's like, yeah, we don't want the afterthought. We don't want the people who are just trying to make money. We need high quality options. And like that, what you said is so important. I was asked one day when I was, talking about the directory on our website, and somebody said, "Oh, so is it your goal to have Black students enroll in Black owned schools?" And I'm like, no, that's not my goal at all. Like, I don't care what school our kids enroll in, as long as they're at high quality, they're making our kids successful, teaching them how to read and do math. Yes. And I don't care. I just want the information out there that, hey, these schools exist. But if the school is not high quality, I won't be pointing nobody to it.
Not at all. Not at all.
We don't have time for that. So do you have any books or resources, anything that's been helping you, guiding you along the way?
Guiding me along the way. I've been really focused in on learning the science of reading, and been reading a lot of great books about just understanding that. Know Better, Do Better is one that I've recently read. I would say the book that has inspired me the most in founding a school is not an educational book at all by any means. It's actually one that is Nightjohn, and I forgot who wrote it. But it's a third grade level book. We read it during my fellowship experience, but that book put into perspective for me the importance of what I am doing, right? And in going back and coming back home, coming back to the South, like Nashville is still the South, but I mean, Tennessee, it feels a little different. Like I'm back in the South. And like coming back in the South, like I understand, my purpose and what I'm doing. So Nightjohn was a book that really helped put a lot into perspective for me and really helped shape my thinking in terms of building something of quality for our kids and doing, hard work for our kids, right? Like we like to believe we're doing what our people have always done for years, right? Which is come back and to be able to give back. It's always been on us to be the ones to come back and give back to our community. So, I have a whole list of books that I can throw off, but like those, start with your why. I can name a million, but the one that's been the most impactful, the one that I probably go back to the most is Nightjohn.
Yeah, it's so funny. We used to watch that movie every year at school. We used to watch that and Miss Jane Pittman and all of these educational related, old Black films. And so you saying that, I remember the scene in Nightjohn where he's, this guy, he had his hands cut off and he's like, or his toes cut off, something, because he knew how to read. Mm-hmm. And that speaks volumes to me, because when I think about how our kids are performing now, with those, and even with the statistics and even nationwide with NAEP, our kids are fighting every day to get a high quality education. And that fight has been since the beginning, when we were kicked out, when we weren't allowed to come into K through 12 schools, HBCUs, like we've been craving education, and we won't stop at nothing to make sure we get it and teach our kids to have it. And so I think that's a really good book and movie. I haven't read the book, but I definitely will. And to talk about, because we've been fighting for our access to education forever. Yes. And we deserve it. And I think that one of the powerful threats to the school choice conversation are people like you, Black-owned school leaders. Like, how are you going to face a Black-owned school leader and say, like, no, you can't have your own school. You can't teach your own babies. You can't change the stats in the system. They have to stay. And I think that that's a really powerful message. So talk to me a little bit about anything else, like anything else you want to talk about, anything about your school or about your journey during this process, and what you guys have cooking up in the kitchen. We know that your location is, we're going to be listening out for that. Anything else that's cooking up?
It's hiring a high quality team, right? Like making sure that we have the right people standing in front of our kids, making sure that they see people who look like them, Black males, Black females, making sure we have like an equal representation. 2% of the teaching force is Black males.
Yeah.
We need more. We need more Black men, not in, roles of dean, not in roles of high school coach, middle school coach. Let's be real. Like that's where we're at, right?
Yeah.
But we need more Black men in elementary schools. Like Black men, we tend to run from elementary school. We tend to run from the little kids, and we're needed there. That's where we're needed the most. Like our kids need to see people who look like them standing in front of them, delivering high quality instruction as early as kindergarten, so that they can start to, in their minds, associate Black with excellence, right? And for me, it's making sure that we build like the ideal of Black excellence in our kids throughout, right? Like our school is not just about like this is a Black school. Like everybody's like, oh my God, I love this. It's a Black school. And I tell people like, this is a Black school focused on Black excellence, right?
Yeah.
Like those in the past who opened up schools, didn't open up schools just to open them up. They opened them up to, like, they were institutions of excellence.
Yeah.
HBCUs are institutions of excellence. And they were created to be able to build that excellence in our people, because we have to be excellent in order to be successful in this country, right? We have to be excellent in order to be successful in this world. So for me, like I am focused on building that excellence, right? Like an excellent team, making sure that our families understand the ideal of excellence and understand what we're pushing towards. And making sure that our community knows that as well. Like this is not just anything, right? Like this is special because, like again, we're building the next generation of Black leaders that are going to attend HBCUs, the class of 2044. God, that's like 2044, right? 2044, and they're going to go out and they're going to go to, FAMU, BCU. It was Water College, Spelman, Morehouse. They're going to go into those classrooms and they're going to know who they are.
Yeah.
They're going to know where they come from. They're going to know they're going to know what they can, what contribution they can make. And they're and those colleges need to watch out because they're coming. And they are ready. And they deserve to be in those seats along with others who look like them, to be able to continue to progress forward. Right. And for me, it's about making sure that I've had this vision, I've received it, I understand it, I've seen it. Now it's about executing on it, right? Like making sure we have the right team in place to be able to execute on it. And for me, it's continuing to make sure that I stay vision focused, right? Like I got this vision, and there's so many people who want to come in and bring in their own pieces and thoughts about what it should be. And for me to just stay focused on the vision and focus on the mission, which is preparing our kids not only for college but for life. We can't focus on just college. We got to focus on preparing them for college and life, and that is what we're going to do every single day. We're going to love them. We're going to see them. They're going to be seen every day. We're going to acknowledge them, their presence, and we're going to challenge them on a daily basis.
Yeah. And did you go to HBCU? I'm assuming you went to an HBCU.
I did not. I was not fortunate enough to attend one. I actually attended the University of North Florida, and it wasn't until I was in college that I even understood about HBCUs. Right, like nobody had ever told me about HBCUs. Nobody ever told me about the power, educated me on the power of an HBCU. We never attended a HBCU college tour. As a matter of fact, we didn't attend any college tours in high school, but we never had that opportunity or exposure. And that was one thing that limited my educational experience. But in college, I had the opportunity to pledge in a fraternity, and we, did a lot of traveling across the state and started to go on those campuses. And, for me, just seeing like wow, like this is amazing.
Yeah.
It's been all my life. Like, why didn't I get this opportunity? Why am I not here?
Yeah.
Like I knew that there was something special going on in those campuses, and to be able to see it and experience it from a third party lens is just like I saw what I missed out on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, you know, this fight is not about me not going to HBCU. This fight is about exposure, and our kids deserve that exposure. And you know, for me, it's not whether you attend in one, is do you believe in the power of HBCUs? Do you understand the mission? Do you understand why they exist? And being able to like help our kids understand that so that they in the future can know that there are other options that are afforded to them outside of, you know, other schools. And those other schools are great places of learning as well. I graduated from them. They trained me. But at the same time, that experience also was an experience where, you know, I didn't go to college every day and have a professor uplifting me, right? Like I didn't have a professor that looked like me. And, you know, as a matter of fact, I had the exact opposite. I had experiences where individuals who stood in front of me was, you know, making me feel less than, right? Like providing me with an experience where I didn't see myself in a positive light. Like I had to build my own confidence to be able to make it through that. So I want to make sure that our kids get an experience where they know that they're going to be loved, right? Like they're going to understand the power of it. And if they decide to go somewhere else, that's fine. They'll be prepared for it. They'll be prepared to sit in those classrooms. They'll know their power. They'll have confidence. So no matter who stands in front of them and tell them anything different, they'll know that, hey, I can do this. And they've had that built in them from the start of their educational career, which is where it starts at.
That's right. That's good. I went to I went to a PWI, and I didn't learn that term. My niece went to FAM, and she's like, you were at a PWI. And I'm like, what? And I felt that synergy, what you're talking about, when I moved to DC to work, and I was going to Howard's campus, going to the Christmas events and the homecoming events. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Like, what if, you know? And I was fortunate enough to go to a K through 12 Black owned school. So I had that identity. I never had that, like, who are you? Like how you most students experience, you know, in college, because I had that foundation in my K through 12. But when I was going on to college campus, I was just like, whoa, what if this was like for my whole, you know, education experience, my education. And it's just so much power. And even with Beyonce's homecoming, that was in Coachella, I'm like, whoa, like it's just so good.
That concert, I mean, it inspired me. Like even from the clips in between of just like her own experience and talking about, you know, like the quotes of "you can't be what you can't see," and you know, highlighting the HBCU experience, like that was so powerful, and it gave me an affirmation to know, like, you're doing what you're supposed to do, brother. Like no matter what other people telling you, like, nah, I'm doing what's right. And I appreciate her for putting that body of work out, because it was amazing, it was beautiful, and it showed the power of what Black people can do. We are amazing individuals. We're so talented. And our kids are no different, right? Like they come out the womb.
Seriously.
Right? Like we come out the womb excellent. And I tell people that all the time. Like, I'm not here to give kids anything, right? Like even in my aims, we can't give them nothing that God has not already given them. They're already excellent. They're already brilliant. They're already amazing. All I'm here to do is to unleash that power within them and to continue to let them know how excellent they are.
In the beginning, you know, I was asking you, you know, challenges of our community, because we're from the same hood, you know. And so even when you just said that, it made me think about, because on the east side, and even our babies on 45th and Moncrief and out in Norwood, you're talking about, our kids are innovative. Like they will take anything and slice it, dice it any type of way to do what they have to do. And how you reframe the narrative, even in the beginning of our conversation, is what they need to use those skills, use the things that they know how to do and change it for the positive, you know. And so I just circling back and recapping, because I think that's so amazing. Like our babies are like I'm just thinking back to some of the things I used to be doing, and I'm like, man, if I just spend it the right way, I could have probably been, had my own business, millionaire, something.
Right. Right. Because when you're in it, let's be real. When you're in it, like, you're not thinking like all the time of like, this is, you're still experiencing love at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
Like, you're experiencing community, like, and for me, another challenge, just to be quite frank and honest, is like educating our community, educating parents, like educating about what charters, what's the difference in a charter and a public school. So people understand that, because we have become, in our minds, like we hate charters. So much information is misinformation is out there, that we don't understand the power of having quality options for your kid, right? Like, I graduated from public schools and I love it to death. Like, I Andrew Jackson, to the day I die, like, I love Andrew Jackson High School. I was Mr. Andrew Jackson. So nobody can,
okay.
I love AJHS, and I'm a Tiger till I die. But I also am able to be honest and real about what being a Tiger really meant for me, right? Like, what it prepared me for, and having to really take the time to educate our community has been really frustrating at times, because it's like, you should see it, like, sometimes you're so far in it, like, you should see it, you should understand why we need this, but we always don't get it, right? Like, we always don't see it, and sometimes I have to take a step back and think, like, some of our parents had terrible experiences in K-12 and in school, right? So, like, you coming in here telling me something different is not going to change my mind. Like, you just like the rest of them. So we're having to really show that love, right? Like, making sure that we are, being patient with our people, but also like talking to them and letting them know, like, hey, this is something that's designed with your child in mind, right? Like, it's designed with my own experiences in mind, like, selfishly, right? Like, it's designed with my parents' experiences in mind, selfishly, but it's also designed with their kids in mind, looking at the data, understanding. I taught in Duval schools. I know the culture. I know our system, right? So I've pretty much designed the school that is doing everything right that's being done wrong in some places. And again, like, some of our schools, they're doing an amazing job. Jacksonville has some of the best schools in the country, right? So I'm not here. There are principals who are leading those schools who are doing the best that they can do and doing great work. And I would never be one to put them down. I'll never be one to put their schools down, because kids attend there. They're doing great work. Those are our community schools, and I love them to death. But at the same time, we have to do something different. And I hope that this school is an opportunity for people to see that something different can happen, and you can come here and learn from it. Like, we are not a silo. We are a true community school. The school is the heartbeat of the community. So we're open to everybody coming in and learning. And we're open to going into spaces and learning as well. Because, we need that partnership. We need that community in order for our kids to be successful. Because it's not about us as adults and how we feel about something. It's about kids at the end of the day, and making sure that our kids are successful, making sure that the next generation, that they're successful and they have a true chance at life. Right? Like, we got to give our kids a fighting chance. Whether they choose to fight when they're older or not, that's on them. But they know, like, hey, like, we taught you what to do. Like, you were taught right. Go out there and do it. So it's about building that community, and we are here to build it. We really are excited about building it.
Well, Cameron, I'm so happy to have you in the trenches, and I look forward to connecting more with you, since we're in the same city, and I'm so happy to have you in your impact back in Duval. And as a recent migrant back home, let's make some moves in our town. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you.